Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're playing Drawback chess, where each player is assigned a random drawback, like Lame Duck, where you can't move your king, or True Gentleman, where you can never capture a queen. My goal is to win 3 games. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, we get the black pieces. It has been a hot second since we have played Drawback chess. We're met with d4, and our specific drawback is Monkey C. You can only capture with piece types that your opponent has captured with. Okay, so we basically have to unlock the ability to capture with certain pieces. I'm not really sure what that says about our strategy. I guess that means we should be hunting trades to some extent. Right now, for example, we can't take with pawns because we've never captured with a pawn. Or rather, because the opponent has never captured with a pawn. We'll play knight to f6. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but it makes me want to play check and see if we can put them in danger from the get-go. So we do get bishop d2, which means I can't capture because the opponent has yet to capture with a bishop. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and castle out of the way before I start sort of testing the limits. Let's go d5 first. The opponent will have captured with a pawn, which means I can take back with a pawn of my own. All right, we get bishop d3 instead. I have a funny feeling we might have inverse drawbacks of some kind. Not to mention, actually, I think all of my drawbacks might be hard. I think I might have all hard drawbacks. We get castles by the opponent. We'll just play h6. So knight g5 is never an idea. And then knight to a4. Knight d7 is totally fine. I'm not really sure what they're looking for. Okay, so now we're starting to see some strange stuff because c5 is objectively a free pawn. Now, obviously, I cannot take it because the opponent hasn't taken anything of mine, so I am not able to take anything of theirs at all. But hopefully they do take here. That means I'll be able to take back with pawns in the future, but not with my knight, so I will have to take back with a pawn right away. It's difficult. It's very difficult, yeah, because this is going to be a kind of just sit and wait sort of game. I can't really do anything to speed this up. We'll play b5. I think I'd rather close up the queen side. And obviously this bishop looks completely entombed behind this pawn structure, so the plan would be something like bishop c8 and to get it out through this diagonal. So we'll start doing stuff like moving the rook, then we can move the knight, eventually maybe we can push the pawn, and then this bishop can be free. Ooh, a4 makes me want to wait for a second actually, because I can play queen c7. I have to connect the rooks. Oh, I was gonna say, because if they take, then I can take back with a pawn. Okay, why on earth is the opponent closing up this side of the board? Actually, you know what? I usually don't like trying to guess, at least not anymore, what the opponent's drawback is, because most of the time it's very difficult to lay a finger on what it might exactly be. But I have a funny feeling this is Secret Garden. I remember Secret Garden being one of the first drawbacks that I ever got. And basically you have to protect your garden and the opponent is not allowed to step on that quote unquote garden or else you lose the game. And I think the opponent's garden might be c3, b3. Like that would explain closing up the side of the board so I can't just get there easy peasy. That actually makes a whole lot of sense to me. I don't know, I'm gonna wait around for a little bit, but if they suddenly start generating normal play, if they start playing like totally normal moves on the king side, I'm going to have every reason to suspect that they're just protecting a secret garden over here. All right, we get queen to c2. I will just move the king over. Not that this check does anything right now, but I don't want them to give check and realize that I can't actually take back. Because then they could just, shuffle this around. So the queen is at the front of the battery and the bishop defends and then give mate. And I literally can't do anything about it. Man, I wish I'd started piecing that together a little bit earlier. I mean, I don't know that there would have been anything I could have done about it because I literally can't take any pieces. But what I might have to do is start just sacrificing. Now, the difficulty is I would have preferred to have sacrificed some of these pieces that are not in front of my king. But as things stand right now, I might have to just start giving up material in the center. We do get knight to e2. Yeah, this whole position kind of just stinks. We'll play knight d7 looking for, well, maybe f6. The problem is any breakthrough, a reasonable opponent would take back with the pawn first, which means I would be able to take with pawns, but I wouldn't have a pawn actually defending e5. So f6 might be necessary first to get that recapture. And we do get pawn to g3 by the opponent. Question is, if I play here, what are the odds they come this way and totally unearth my king? It just seems too scary. We'll play bishop to f6. I also only have 50 seconds left. Luckily the opponent isn't that far behind. And we do get 2 seconds back for every move that we make. Yeah, I might just have to wait around here for a little bit. Yeah, because now we're starting to get even on time. And as far as I can tell, the opponent hasn't quite yet decided to sort of full commit a kingside attack. So just by waiting around, I think I can buy myself some much needed time. Ooh, knight goes back to d2, maybe looking for f4. But again, I'm just gonna hang tight for a little bit. There's really no rush for me here. We'll play g6, move back. No reason for me to cause myself any problems in this position. In fact, they now have noticeably less time than we do. We'll just move the bishop back, just slow maneuvers the whole time. And I guess we'll hang tight until the opponent flags. If the opponent isn't going to take action in the position, then I'm certainly not going to either. Yeah, they're down now under 20 seconds. They're just moving pieces around, so I have a funny feeling that we can't really do anything, but I don't think they want to do anything. What I could also do is just play e5, bishop e6, and try to jump into what I really strongly believe is the garden. It's such an amusing idea. Let's go here first, so c6 is protected when I do play e5. Let's just go for it, see what happens. Oh, they didn't take. Okay, we'll push e4. I mean, that's still free because I can't take back, but it starts opening up the position. Wow, the knight goes back, but I can't even take that either. All right, we'll go bishop to h3. They're now under 10 seconds, so to be totally honest, all we've done is complicate the position for them. Queen goes back. They're confused why we're not taking, and we're just trying to cause them problems. So there's no rhyme or reason to any of these moves. I'm just trying to pile on pieces until the opponent can't take the pressure anymore. Just turning up the heat in the kitchen until the opponent crumbles. Right, it seems they do flag, so we do win the game. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, we did win, and as you can see, I'm like 99% sure, we'll go check that in a second though, that I do have give me harder drawbacks enabled, because our drawback was significantly more difficult than the opponent's. The opponent's drawback was not garden, thank goodness, was not secret garden, that is, so thank goodness that I didn't base my entire plan around that idea. Instead, their drawback was conscientious objectors, can't capture with pawns. Oh, wow. Ours is harder than theirs? That's really interesting. I feel like not being able to capture, or maybe it's just the way that they decided to play the game, but not being able to capture with pawns kind of means you have no support for anything. I mean, the spine of your position is non-existent. You can never take back with pawns. You can never count on pawns to hold on to pieces. I mean, it explains why they didn't take on e5, but holy smokes, that is a tough one to play with, but we did manage to get the victory. Let's go ahead and change into full screen for a moment. Full screen, there we go. We'll slide this over and actually confirm that we do have, where is that, here? No, that's just my elo. Ooh, I'm rated 2000, nice. Drawback? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, in our drawback glossary, you can see I prefer hard drawbacks enabled. So let's go ahead and move back to the actual setup before I forget. There we go. We'll hide the info board and jump into game number 2. All right, game number 2, we get the black pieces again, and our drawback is rook on the 7th. By move 15, oh, this one again, you must move one of your rooks onto the 2nd rank. So we have enough moves to do it. It's just difficult deciding where on earth you're going to be able to land a rook. I mean, the actual logistics of getting the rook onto that square without the opponent just being like, no, I'm going to stop that idea, is very, very tricky. So we have 15 turns to do this. I think development might not even be a priority anymore. Let's just go a5. We'll at least open up one of the rooks first, and then sort of figure out how the plan develops from there. And who knows, with any luck, they might just think we're a terrible player. Okay, b3 actually leans into our idea, unless they move right past, in which case the file remains closed. Nice, they do take, which means I can take back. And I really could just sacrifice right away. They target my rook. Oh, e4 is hanging though. I think I'm going to take that first because I can always shuffle over and target a different pawn. I might even just go for f2. But the knight comes out to defend. Wait a minute. What are the odds? Wait, what are the odds I can checkmate the opponent? I have 11 turns left. Can I waste 3 turns looking for this? I can, but they play f3 to get out of the way. Okay, we'll move. Oh, I can take the knight to get onto the 2nd rank, and that way I actually don't lose an obscene amount of material. We'll now start developing and see if we can get an attack on the king going. Problem is d4 here is very nice. I should have played e5 instead. Yeah, I played that way too quickly. We'll play check. If we do get d4, yeah, then we have to move back. And we still have like attacking ideas that we can sort of bother the opponent with, but none of them are as concrete as they could have been if we had e5 and we were looking down this way. But it's okay. That's in the past. And we have a species of drawback that basically it's like a one and done sort of thing. You have the drawback and it's really bad for a couple of moves. And now for the rest of the game, I'm entitled to play absolutely whatever I want. Whereas the opponent, hopefully, is still dealing with some sort of drawback. Hopefully they don't take. Okay, I'm playing a lot of hope chess as well, but I want to get bishop b7. I want to get an attack on g2. They do take. Okay, so this is not a weak player. They immediately understood that this weakness in the pawn structure is not ideal. Here's the new plan. We're going to play normal chess. I'm not going to go for any cheeky, fast winning ideas. There's really no need. I've already gotten rid of my drawback. So I'm going to go and just play normal chess. Like there is that tactical idea, but I don't have to play into it because I'm just developing my bishop anyways. So we're going to go for just normal solid chess and see if we can't get the opponent to crumble under the pressure of their own drawback. because we had a hard drawback, that much we did, but it's no longer on our plate. So you'd imagine that I should have some ways of causing the opponent difficulties with their own drawback. Okay, we get pawn to a4, probably looking for this breakthrough, which makes, I mean, this is a strong player. Clearly, this is not a weak player by any stretch of the imagination. I kind of want to just play e4 here. I know what I said about playing concrete chess, but this is genuinely how I would play. I'm totally fine with giving up this pawn if it means I can activate my rook and get my own attack going on the king. They play rook to f3 to stop this idea and also obviously get the rook out of danger. Let's go c5, and either the bishop takes and we get onto this file and then the bishop has to shuffle over to h6, or the bishop just retreats. Okay, they do take, which means I should have this and then knight to g3 check, which wins me back the exchange and also gets a pretty good attack going on the opponent. But you can see how this is different from, you know, lining up the queen and the bishop when f4 just stops the checkmating idea in the first place. Okay, now we have check. The opponent can either lose the exchange this way, which is what they decide to do, or they can allow me to take. But now I'm targeting g2, so somebody has to come out and defend that. Oh, I thought it was going to be the rook, but now we just have check. And do we have a mating idea? Here's the question. I don't even need a mating idea. I can just give check this way and grab the rook on a1. So no need to overcomplicate this at all. I'm just grabbing my free rook. The knight is pinned to the king, so the knight falls next. And that should be a pretty clear cleanup. We'll hit the bishop with tempo. They do take, we take back. The knight is still pinned, so it's still toast on the next move. We go ahead and take. This is a king capture variant. We'll go ahead and just take with the king. And we're basically just going for mate. I'm 99% sure they're trying to get stalemated. So we'll play like c4 and h4 and what have you to try to get stalemate on the board. Let's go check. And then I think check and check is mate. So check this way. Oh, and they do take. Okay, which allows us to take back. And we do win that game as well. Let's go ahead and pop up the info board. All right, we did have a harder drawback than the opponent, but not by much. We did win the game by capturing the opponent's king. Your opponent's drawback was Royal Jubilee. Whenever you capture a non-pawn piece, you must move your king or queen on the next move. That's another one. That seems really hard because you'd imagine, I don't know how to describe this better, but in the day-to-day of moving your pieces around, having to trade and then immediately move a king or the queen means that, for example, back-to-back captures on squares of intersections might not actually be viable anymore. I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm biased because I played with my drawback, so I figured my own problem out, but I've only just been revealed the opponent's drawback, so maybe I'm a little biased on how difficult it really is, but that one seems pretty pesky as well. With that, we do have 2 victories under our belt. Let's go to move on to game number 3. Before we move on, if you want to improve your openings, I recommend checking out the sponsor of this video, chessreps.com, which offers easy step-by-step opening lessons. Drill your opening to climb to the top of the leaderboard or do puzzles that come from real games, like this puzzle where I can click back to see how we got to this Jobava London position before delivering this nasty fork. Puzzles are completely free, so you can keep doing puzzles to increase your opening elo and then take that practice into a real game, like I did to crush my opponent with the Jobava London. If you want to support the channel and become an opening menace, check out chessreps.com. Now, back to the video. All right, game number 3, we get the black pieces again, and our drawback is, oh, this one's terrible, checkers. You must capture if able. It's very amusing because I've gotten now to the point where I've had enough drawbacks that I can read them and for the most part recognize them and already have a notion of how difficult it's going to be. On the bright side, the white player has decided not to move yet, which is nice. But they do decide on b3. You must capture if able. That's pretty bad. I'm pretty sure the last time I played this, I had to play to restrict my own pieces, which is such an uncomfortable way to play chess. Auto abort. No, I don't want to auto abort. Let's go here, I guess. not dissimilar from the opponent's idea. They do play e4. I guess I just have to play passive. I mean, wow, this is tough because this is one of those where I really don't know how I'm supposed to break the game on it, I guess is the best way to say it. Because if I develop my queen, for example, something like h4, which seems really unlikely, would immediately lose me the queen, but I don't know that I have better prospects. So I'll play this, looking for bishop b4. I'm totally fine with this trade if I'm forced to play it. Nice, so I do have to take. The opponent takes back, and there are no more forced trades. We'll play knight e7. Again, as passive as I can muster. But wow, this is a tough one. I don't think I ever did figure out how to sort of get around this drawback either. This is one of those that's just, it kind of just feels like a death sentence. Let's try this. Let's go d5. Gotten rid of the dark squared bishop, and this one's entombed anyways, which for the first time ever is actually a good thing. I'll take back with the knight, which only looks at the bishop. Bishop takes on g7. We'll move. Oh, if I move the rook this way and they move the bishop, I have to take the pawn. Rook h7? That's such an ugly move. And you'd imagine the opponent is just going to retreat the bishop. Yeah, that makes sense. Bishop goes back, but at least we don't lose the rook for no reason. Knight d7. Pawn to g3. I think now I can line up on the long diagonal since it's going to be filled with actual pieces that I'm fine with trading. Hopefully the opponent castles, and then maybe I have activity on the long diagonal. Oh, but they're going for the long castle. Yeah, which puts us in quite the pickle. Okay, let's go knight back to e7. If we do have to take, I'm totally fine with that. Yeah, we do. Oh, king d2. Why king d2? We'll move the rook out of the way. I feel like I've managed to restrict my own pieces without putting myself in a totally compromised position, which is something of a victory somehow. Let's go c5. You'd imagine going for the king that's now on d2 is going to be one of the very, very few opportunities we have to play for a win. We do get bishop to h5. Looks at this capture. Oh, looks at, wow, this player is good. Looks at queen takes e6 because this pins the pawn on f7. So king to f8 to move the king out of the way. Pawn to f4, the opponent's going for an attack of their own, which makes sense. C4 takes. I have this capture instead of losing my queen, but on the next turn, I don't know what I have. Rook moves over to f1. Yeah, the problem is if I unleash this attack, then I unleash the queen as well, who will have to sack herself on c2. Maybe knight c6 first. If we do get f5, oh, if I can take, I have to, so I would have to take on f5 anyways. Yeah, there's just nothing I can do about that. Oh, rook to f2. Okay, that's not as bad as it could have been. So now I do have c4. It's not nearly as good as it would be if I didn't have this drawback, but it's a way of at least opening up the king's position, which is nice. Yeah, the other thing is, oh, look at all those captures. The other thing is, if I ever give check to the king and somebody blocks, that piece has to take it, because how else would it have been seeing the king in the first place? So that is not great. You'd imagine I want to trade everything off as fast as possible, but that doesn't seem super likely. Okay, it's obviously going to be one of these because I have no reason to lean into their attack. So let's take on d3. D3? Yeah, D3 I think is, I don't know, they're both bad because I end up with this anyways. Unless they decide to take, which would be really, really interesting and probably a thick sign that there's a drawback amidst. Okay, they do just take back with the pawn. So now I do have to take on f5. Rook does take back. I could play this and see if they don't notice, but that seems pretty unlikely as well. Knight to e7. I only have 30 seconds as well. So we are targeting the rook. If they leave the rook there and I'm forced, quote unquote, to take it, by all means. Oh, they could also play this. No way. If they pin my knight, and they seem to like to play with pins, no, they just move the rook back. If they pinned my knight, I would have had to take and lose the king there. Okay, we'll play b4, so that's never an idea again. All right, my queen looks down this file. If a rook ever looks at it, I have no choice but to take it, but we get rook to f1 instead. Sure. So they're looking to take. I have 20 seconds. They take, I take, I move over, queen g4, and we're pretty much getting mated. So I don't think a Hail Mary is the silliest idea possible. I mean, it's drawback chess. You never know what's going to happen. So I do have to take back and put the king in check. Now I have to take on b3. Yeah, they do take. I have to take. Oh, and the worst part is I have to take back with my king. Yeah, I have no choice but to take back, and surely the opponent will take, and we do in fact lose the game. All right, let's pop up the info board. All right, you lost. Your opponent's drawback was true love. Your king can only make moves that place it adjacent to your queen and can't move if you don't have a queen. Oh, interesting. Maybe, I don't know if I could have even been any more aggressive about getting to that king. Maybe I'll have to be more aggressive in general. If I get a bad drawback like this one, I have to hunt the king, and my only hope is that the opponent somehow runs out of moves a little faster, but that sort of slow and painful death didn't really seem to bring me that many new opportunities. All right, let's go and dive into game number 4. All right, game number 4, we do finally get the white pieces, and our drawback is another one of these. It's called Expedition. On move 16, you must move to g8. This is possibly one of the worst variations because it's not by move 16, it's not after move 16, it's on move 16. Specifically, you must have access to and move to g8. g8 possibly being one of the worst squares for this because, you know, in general, usually black wants to castle there. So any attack on that square is not going to be interpreted as, oh my goodness, let me move my king out of here so white can do whatever they want on g8. It's going to be interpreted as an attack on the king, which for me is terrible news because they're going to do anything to defend it. So as far as actually getting to g8, it's either going to be the light squared bishop, the queen, let's play queen's gambit, or maybe a rook or a knight or something. But even that seems kind of unlikely. Maybe we have like h4. If they do take. Okay, we'll play e4 and then look for this. The other option is to try to beat the opponent in less than 13 turns, although that seems very, very unlikely. They do, okay. I'm fine with opening up the position. If they want to take, they absolutely can. We can open things up and maybe I find a way to get back here somehow. Right, so this bishop is going to have to stay here. g6. I only have 11 turns left. Let's go here with the idea of knight to e5 and then f7. The opponent resigns. Okay, cool. All right, let's go ahead and pop up the info board. That's confusing. All right, your opponent's drawback drawback was quit horsing around. If you moved a knight on your last move, you can't move a knight again. Okay, interesting. I think the opponent just left because we had a significantly harder drawback, and they were not losing by any stretch of the imagination. But anyways, with that, we do win all 3 games. I hate to end the episode here, but I do have the Sarawon Chess Championship qualifier thing coming up in a moment. I don't know how, as the variant guy, this never came across my screen, but apparently chess.com is having some sort of variant championship, and Sarawon Chess is possibly one of the most similar to chess without having anything to do with chess variants that exist. So I'm really hoping that I have a decent chance of qualifying there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.